What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be looking at A Quiet Place, which released in 2018, and I wanted to say my piece on this film considering the third installment of the series releases soon. I feel like to most fans of the genre, it feels like everything has already been tried and redone over and over again, so the feeling of being shocked by a value becomes less and less common nowadays. But then Krasinski came in and said, yeah, let's pull the rug from right under your feet and try something new. The idea of a monster movie wasn't new by any means, but to have the confidence, the vision, and be bold enough to start off the movie with the death of a child really solidifies the mark the movie left on the genre. Obviously, like the title suggests, sound is a luxury these characters can't afford, so the use of diegetic noise and music work perfectly with the story. The tension and unnerving feeling of dread is so palpable from start to finish through this film. Combine that with an unrelenting feeling of fear that never feels exhausting, it's truly shocking that they're able to make a movie that's so bleak feel so wholesome at the same time. It goes without saying that Krasinski's direction deserves all the praise and merit for having a movie with such little dialogue that says volumes more than most other films. Words are so scarce that their footsteps count as part of their dialogue. Who would have thought this guy would have absolutely smashed it as a director? And yeah, at the surface, this is a monster flick, but really where it shines is it's tackling the themes of fraught parental relationships, balancing a love story, and also showing the many shades of grief that each character battles with throughout the film, all while blending in moments of levity and weaving in a perfect story of love. With Emily Blunt and John Krasinski portraying such a pure love for each other, it's just so infectious and magnetic every time these two are on screen together, to the point that it makes you forget you're in this apocalyptic world. And that in itself just shows how powerful and excellent the performances were by these two. In a situation so dire, they constantly reminded us of the humanity that's very much an imperative theme throughout the movie. Obviously, it helps that the two are married in real life, but still, I can't stop singing the praises enough of their performances. In general, all these characters feel so genuine, and as a unit, even with their differences, they still at their core feel like a family. And especially because it's such a small cast, they really needed to feel that way. In fact, the only other person we meet ends up becoming an issue, so it adds to the isolating feeling of, yeah, literally everybody outside of our family is a liability. Like, I know there's the other lights that signify other life, but those don't count because we never really see them and they don't really add anything to the story. More so, it's just supposed to signify that we're not the only ones here. Personally, I love Emily Blunt in almost all her work, and while I'm more of a Parks and Rec kind of guy than The Office, this movie really left me biting my tongue in the best way possible about Krasinski. Oh my god, his role in the film was quintessential to exhibiting the heart of this story. I'm a firm believer of show don't tell style of films, and since obviously they quite literally couldn't speak, they had to show, so maybe I'm biased in that sense, but he conveys a spectrum of emotions and sequences that are just gut-wrenching. Like, despite the fact that he's at odds with himself because he doesn't blame Reagan for the death of her younger brother, as much as it feels like he hates the world they are in for putting them in the circumstances that allowed him to die in the first place, as well as just feeling like if he was just that little second faster, he might have saved his son. Let alone the fact that for a father, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is seeing your child be taken away from you right in front of your eyes and being powerless to do anything about it. It's just devastating to see how fraught the relationship seems because of it. And while it's easy to blame her as the audience, there was no malice in her actions. Ultimately, Bo was ripped from the story due to his own actions and had to pay the consequence. It's just tragic that his naivety was his own downfall. Which, to be honest, using a toy as the device that ends up leading to his demise is perfect, because using something so innocuous such as a toy really sets the bar for how delicate this world is. I feel like because of that choice, I had no delay in immersing myself into this world. With that quick act, it made it real clear, nope, any and all noise is not allowed in this world. And you'd think it's asking a lot of the audience to not expect dialogue or any noise for the rest of the film, but with an opening as as strong as this one, it became extremely easy to settle into the roles of the movie. And yet, in a movie that's as tragic as having the death of an innocent child, this film has so many beautiful tear-jerking moments. The waterfall scene between Marcus and Lee, not only is it beautiful because it lets us see how much more to life there still is, and how much more there's still left to live for, whether it's the love of each other or for the new life that hasn't even been born yet. This was a great moment between father and son, but it also served its purpose of confirming to the audience that Lee doesn't blame Reagan for Beau's death. And in a clever way, it also serves the purpose of hinting at the idea of a solution to the nightmare they're living in with noise. It's subtle but effective, the fact that you can make noise as long as there's other louder noises around you. There's logic to it, and it works perfectly well with the story. Another beautiful moment is when Reagan finally goes to the basement to see all the prototype earpieces Lee had created that, accompanied with evocative music, hurts the heart because you realize Lee never gave up on helping Reagan hear sound. And considering that because of that moment, Reagan was able to find a solution to the seemingly invincible monsters, makes it that much more effective. A father's persistence to help his children is such a strong undertone to this film, and despite Reagan's constant rejection of his experimental cochlear earpieces, he doesn't relent and keeps trying new configurations. Is this movie without flaws? No, but what movie really is? The idea of baby birth and uncontrollable noise that a baby makes, it's hard to juggle. The maternal figure being the teacher and the doctor is convenient, assuming none of them will ever get anything past like a common cold. You know, how would she figure that one out? But all of that seems immaterial when looking at the big picture, and the emotional odyssey these characters went through feels rewarding to the point that I can overlook these small nitpicks. Side note, I find it funny how in a genre where the essence of fear is sound, that fear can be implemented into the story of the movie and yet feel organic. It's very clever, you know? It's impossible to answer all the questions about this world in the runtime of the movie, but I like the subtle moments that the movie takes to try and elaborate. Like how animals are easy prey to these monsters because obviously they can adapt to these extreme survival skills. Personally, I love the Neil Young song that was danced by Krasinski and Blunt. What a perfect moment that was. And of course, Lee's sacrifice is the moment that really elevates this movie. I don't care that the monster should have easily been able to rip through that car. In that moment, his telling to his daughter how he loves her and always will, God, what a striking, resonant moment that it's close to impossible to not feel for both the kids and Lee. The ultimate sacrifice, since he refused to allow history to repeat itself with his other children went beyond reason. Everything else just became an afterthought to him. And his delivery of that yell, what throughout the whole film was shown to be catastrophic, to be able to be molded into the salvation, was just brilliant. This film is the pinnacle of wordless storytelling, so much so that it baffles me that the sequel was such a lame and abysmal follow-up. One of the things that this movie really had down right from the start was that the monsters didn't overstay their welcome on screen. If you really think about it, they don't have a lot of screen time, but the few moments that they do get are so impactful that it's enough to leave their mark and let you know how dangerous they really are. Fingers crossed for the third one, I guess, but regardless of that though, it's undeniable that the original will stand the test of time, and at least for me, it's definitely one that no matter how many rewatches I do, it'll never cease to amaze me at how good it is. But that's about it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe. My name's Anthony, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.